Shape of Water opens with gentle music while objects suspend, or rather, float, underwater in a small apartment. Alyssa hovers mid-air along with them, seemingly sleeping until she gently floats down, along with the objects around her. A voice informs us that this is a story of a fairytale about a princess without a voice. He warns us that it's a tale of love and loss and the monster who tried to destroy it all. Just as Alyssa's head hits the pillow, an alarm clock rings and the water subsides. She is pulled back into reality, and us along with her. As her morning begins, or rather her night, since Alyssa works night shifts, she goes about her daily routine. She makes eggs and takes a bath for exactly 3 minutes while an alarm clock keeps her on schedule. She spends time with Giles, her next-door neighbor, a lonely, gay artist in his late 60s. He chats leisurely with her, though she never replies. He asks her if she's noticed the cookie smell wafting in the air because last night there was a cookie factory fire nearby. Then he is quickly distracted by the old movie on the television. Shirley Temple dances on screen and the two watch, carefully observing the dance steps and copying them. Alyssa leaves for work, doing a little Shirley Temple-style dance in the hallway on her way out. She passes by the arcade cinema marquee as she exits, which she and Giles recite above. She takes the bus to the military facility where she works. Like usual, she arrives a bit late. Zelda waves for her to join her up front in the clocking in line, despite others protesting. The two women are good friends and Zelda is able to communicate with Alyssa through sign language as Alyssa is mute. Together they clean various offices and rooms in the facility. While they clean, Zelda complains about her husband, Brewster, and Alyssa listens. Zelda and Alyssa's manager, Fleming, calls everyone together to remind them how imperative their incoming asset is, something mysterious that's being brought in by way of a large steel, glass container filled with water. As it's wheeled in, Alyssa is drawn to the container, observing it curiously. When she places her hand on the object, a webbed palm hits the glass, startling her. Later, Alyssa and Giles go to a diner where Giles chats up the cute waiter who he refers to as Pie Guy, a seemingly friendly man from Iowa. After they return home, Giles wonders out loud as to Alyssa whether the Pie Guy really wants him to return soon like he said as they were leaving, or whether he was just being polite. Alyssa doesn't respond as she is distracted by the pie's horrendous taste. Giles agrees that the pie is disgusting, telling her to spit it out. It's apparent he's not been visiting the shop for the pies, but really for the company. They flip through the channels on the television and Alyssa stops at a channel documenting the civil rights protests, but this makes Giles upset, and he asks that she keep going. They settle on a black and white film where a young woman is dancing, and Giles reminisces over being young and says if he was young again, he would tell himself to take better care of his teeth, and to get intimate with people a lot more, making Alyssa blush. Alyssa then goes about her nightly routine getting ready for work. She cooks hard-boiled eggs and shines her shoes, then takes the bus to the facility. At work, Zelda notices pee splatter all over the men's restroom as they clean, and she jokes about the great minds they're cleaning up after that somehow just can't manage to hit the target. While they joke, Strickland walks in. He's abrasive and rude, making them awkwardly stay in the bathroom while he pees and introduces himself as their new head of security. When Zelda asks about their old head of security, Strickland insults him. Alyssa notices a strange device Strickland places on the bathroom sink. After he leaves, she realizes that it's left blood on the sink and she realizes it must be some sort of weapon. Later, while the women are working, Zelda complains about short men, stating they're always mean. Suddenly, they hear gunshots and soon see Strickland stumble out of the room where the creature is being held. He's covered in his own blood and is gripping his hand in pain. The women are ushered away by security as people rush to help him. Alyssa and Zelda go to dinner, but just as they're about to sit down, Fleming approaches them and instructs them to follow him. He's anxious and disoriented over the whole ordeal with Strickland. Fleming leads Zelda and Alyssa to the room where the creature is held and tells them to clean up the blood covering the floors, stating they have exactly 20 minutes to make the place immaculate. The women get to work, though Zelda complains about the sight of blood, stating it's the one fluid she really can't handle. Soon Alyssa finds Strickland's 2 severed fingers. While Zelda runs out to inform Fleming of the found appendages, Alyssa sees the creature in the tank and the two appear captivated by one another. However, it swims away hastily when Zelda reappears with Fleming. The next day, Alyssa tells Giles about the creature she saw, and he questions whether what she saw was real. Then he puts on an Alice Faye movie and contemplates her tragic life and infamous career, after having left Hollywood when she was fed up with the industry. He then excitedly tells Alyssa he's going to go get paid and skips out with the painting in hand. It's an ad for a company of a family sharing a meal. However, when he meets with his old boss, Bernie, at the ad agency where he used to work, Bernie tells him the higher-ups want changes with the picture Giles has painted and is hesitant to promise him his old job back. Bernie encourages him to work on his own paintings and implies that photography has really been taking the place of hand-painted artwork for advertising. At the facility, Alyssa goes to visit the creature and finds him chained to his tank. He swims over to her as she pulls out the hard-boiled egg. The creature approaches Alyssa, then stands up, showing his human-like body, covered in gills. He's hesitant at first, but Alyssa stays calm and signs egg. The creature takes the egg, then dives back into the water. Later, Strickland calls Zelda and Alyssa into his office to warn them about the creature, obnoxiously bragging about how he dragged it here from South America. He warns them about being careful in the room where the asset is kept, saying that it may stand on 2 feet. But humans are made in the Lord's image like him. Despite Alyssa and Zelda being the one to find his fingers, which have been seemingly reattached to his hand, he's rude to the women. Strickland makes a note of the scars on Alyssa's neck, saying that must have been how she lost her voice and questioning how someone could do such a thing to a baby. Then he mocks Zelda's middle name, which is Delilah, telling her that in the Bible, Delilah betrayed Samson. Strickland arrives home just as his kids are heading out for school. His son tells him about all the futuristic things he's watched on TV and asks if they're possible. Strickland says yes, since anything is possible in America. He's clearly tense and uninterested in his family, responding blankly. After his kids leave, he and his wife have an intimate moment, and Strickland covers her mouth when she notices that his hand is bleeding, creepily saying he likes silence. Back at the lab, Alyssa brings more eggs to the creature as well as a record player that she plays for him. Over time, their bond deepens and Alyssa teaches him simple sign language. They soon start to develop a kind of relationship where they listen to music and Alyssa dances for the creature. One evening while the two are canoodling, the head scientist, Dr. Hoff, watches them interacting and is struck by the creature's ability to communicate. Surprisingly, he keeps Alyssa's secret as he is hiding secrets of his own. It turns out that Dr. Hoff is actually a Soviet agent named Dmitry who is there investigating the Americans' progress in the space race. He meets up with his fellow Russians to update them on all of his investigating and research he's uncovered. When Hofstetler speaks with his Russian superiors, he asks them to pass along the message to Moscow that the creature is actually intelligent, urging them to prioritize maintaining the well-being of the creature. His contact accepts the message but is doubtful that they'll take this into consideration. Back at work, during a smoke break, Alyssa learns that there's a camera blind spot in the laundry dock area, giving her the idea to break the creature out of the facility. Soon after, Alyssa goes to visit the creature and finds him tied up. She hides as Strickland enters. Strickland tortures the creature, goading it in its powerlessness. He finds an egg Alyssa has accidentally left behind and becomes suspicious. Meanwhile, Zelda finds Alyssa's card in the hallway, but she is nowhere to be found, just as General Hoyt joins Strickland in the creature's room. Strickland presents the creature as a monstrous thing that should be killed and vivisected, while Hoff protests. He argues that the creature could answer many questions on humans' ability to breathe in harsh environments since they plan on sending a man to space, and are hoping to do this faster than the Russians. Hoyt listens to both arguments, but when Hoff demands that no one kill the creature, Hoyt puts him in check, reminding him that he is in charge, not Hoff, and therefore he has no choice in the matter. It is then that Hoff notices Alyssa hiding, but says nothing. Once home, Alyssa tries to enlist Giles to help free the creature. She pleads with him, saying that she is just like the creature and her whole life has led up to this moment. Alyssa feels that the creature sees her for what and who she really is, unlike everybody else. Giles is resistant, saying the creature isn't even human. But she counters that if they do nothing, neither are they. While he is moved by her pleading, he restates that he cannot help her, and leaves to try and sell his painting again to his old ad agency job. However, once he arrives, Bernie informs him they are going with the photographers, and while he sympathizes with him, he needs to move on. Devastated, Giles goes to the pie shop and seeks solace in the cute pie guy. However, once Giles tells him that he would like to get to know him better, the pie guy rejects him, then is racist to an African-American couple, prompting Giles to return to Alyssa and promise to help her with whatever she needs, realizing that she is the most important person in his life. Hoff learns that Moscow wants him to kill the creature before the Americans have the chance to experiment on him. They give him a device that will shut down the power in the facility, giving him enough time to secretly kill the creature. Hoff tries to protest, but he is shut down, so he takes the device dutifully. Meanwhile, Strickland goes car shopping and the salesman strokes his fragile ego, calling him a man of the future and convincing him to buy a Cadillac. He drives it out of the store and feels confident, cruising down the street in the teal caddy. Giles paints his van and forges documents to make it look like he works for a laundry company, which is how he'll sneak into the facility. He and Alyssa go over their plan. Giles is nervous, but is fully committed to helping Alyssa. At work, Strickland spills water on purpose, then asks his secretary to call Alyssa into his office to clean it up. As she cleans up the spill, he threatens her, belittles her for being mute, and harasses her. Afterwards, Alyssa moves the cameras so later Giles can sneak in undetected. Hofstetter makes a last-ditch effort to stop the murder of the creature, pleading to Strickland, but it doesn't work. As they speak, Hoff spots Alyssa moving the camera and finds her in the creature's room, then helps her break him out. He also gives her instructions on how to take care of him as he needs salt in his water to breathe properly. Hoff uses his device given to him from his Russian bosses to shut down the facility, allowing Alyssa to escape with the creature. Before Alyssa is able to make it out, she runs into Zelda, who pleads with her to stop. When Alyssa refuses, Zelda gives in and decides to help. Through the security cameras in his office, Strickland notices Giles in his van and runs down to the laundry dock. A security guard stops Giles, but Hofstetler kills him, allowing Giles, Zelda, and Alyssa to move the creature into the van, accidentally slamming into Strickland's car on the way out. Alyssa and Giles help the creature into her bathtub just as he's passing out, but the water fills his lungs and he resuscitates. That morning, Alyssa and Giles visit the canals, while he worries about whether the rains will come in time as the creature requires very specific living conditions, but Alyssa is insistent that they will come. That night, the facility is filled with security looking for the culprit that broke the creature out. Fleming surmises that the breakout was constructed by 10 elite men, and Strickland agrees that it's possible, and decides to interrogate the staff. Meanwhile, Giles hangs out with the creature and draws him as he talks to him, discussing his remarkable beauty and relating to his own feelings of being out of place in the world. He tells the creature that he's always felt like he was born both too early or too late for his life. Strickland calls Alyssa and Zelda into his office to question them. He insults them and degrades them, then sends them away, saying that they are merely just the staff, the feces cleaners, so obviously they can be of no use. Unbeknownst to him, Alyssa signs an insult, but Zelda translates and tells him she really is saying thank you, though he's unconvinced. Meanwhile, Giles falls asleep while watching the creature. He leaves the bathroom and curiously examines Alyssa's apartment, then breaks into Giles' apartment where he finds his artwork and runs into Giles' cat, who hisses at him. Giles wakes up and finds the creature missing, so he goes to investigate and finds him eating the cat. Giles yells out for him to stop, scaring him and prompting him to run away, scratching Giles' arm in the process. Back at the lab, Hoff convenes with Zelda and Alyssa, questioning how the creature is doing and what their plan is, and they assure him they will release him soon. Alyssa tells Hoff he is a good man, and he replies his name is Dmitri, implying his true identity as a Russian, and he's honored to meet them. Giles calls Alyssa at work, who runs home and finds a bleeding Giles, though he is not upset and says that he's a wild creature and was just doing what came natural to him. He tells Alyssa he's fine and urges her to go after him. Alyssa finds the creature in the movie theater below their apartment, entranced by a film. After, the creature symbolically apologizes to Giles by placing his hand on his head and arm, which later we realize regrows his hair and heals his arm wound. Strickland interrogates Hoff, prodding him on his supposed past work in Wisconsin, but Hoff is unprovoked. Strickland asks if he will be leaving them now that the creature is gone, and Hoff coolly replies that he will leave only if the creature is not found, though Strickland states that he will find the creature, and even menacingly states that he has a lead. Alyssa is attracted to the creature and feels a connection as she says goodnight to it one morning. She's resistant at first, but then as she's going to bed she decides to act on her feelings. The two develop an intimate relationship, and Alyssa begins to find the joy in life more. When she takes the bus to work, the lights twinkle a bit brighter and she's entranced by the rain sliding on the window. At work, Zelda questions Alyssa as to why she's smiling, and Alyssa implies her intimate relationship with the creature, which surprises Zelda, but merely prompts her to joke about men. Later, Hoff is visited by Russians who claim his extraction papers will be ready soon and ask about the creature. It's tense and Hoff worries that they are onto him, so he holds a kitchen knife behind his back just in case. He lies to the Russians and says that he killed the creature and then disposed of the body. They seemingly accept this information and leave soon after, though Hoff remains worried. At Strickland's home, he becomes increasingly stressed, not able to interact with his family when they overwhelm him with questions and conversation. He exits the house and goes to sit in his now dented car. In the car, he notices that his severed fingers appear to not have successfully reattached and look almost dead, smelling terrible, but he refuses to accept this and leaves them attached to his hand. Meanwhile, Alyssa decides to fill her bathroom with water from floor to ceiling, allowing her and the creature to make love freely. Water spills into the theater below and bursts from the cracks of the room. The landlord bangs on the door, but Giles insists it's probably just a burst pipe and promises to fix it. When he enters the apartment, he finds water bursting out of the bathroom, then opens the door to find the two hugging. Back at the facility, General Hoyt gives Strickland an ultimatum that if he does not retrieve the creature in 36 hours, Strickland's career will be ruined, implying that he will be undone and destroyed. Fleming, on Strickland's orders, watches Hoff walk home, and Hoff notices Fleming watching him as he receives a call notifying him about his extraction. Back at Alyssa's apartment, she imagines dancing with the creature and singing to him in an old movie-esque style, like from the film she and Giles watch. However, the scene ends with the pair eating alone in silence in her apartment. Soon after, Alyssa realizes that the creature is becoming more sickly living in the bathtub as he requires precise water conditions to stay in. Zelda notices something is wrong at work and asks Alyssa, who brings her home after work, to check on the creature. Zelda agrees that he's not in good shape and states they need to call Hoff. Using the card he gave them, Zelda calls Hoff, but he doesn't answer as he's gone to the extraction point. Meanwhile, Strickland and Fleming are staking out Hostetler's home, and Strickland is becoming increasingly undone. He notices his 2 severed fingers are now a dark color, showing that the reattachment process has failed. But he denies this when Fleming mentions the smell. As Hoff exits his house, Strickland angrily kicks Fleming out of his own car and pursues Hoff as he goes to his extraction point. Strickland intercepts Hofstetler right in the middle of the Soviets' attempt to kill him. Instead, Strickland kills the Soviets and tortures Hoff with his cattle prod until he reveals the identities of who stole the creature. Strickland asks for names and ranks, assuming it was a Russian strike team who took the creature, but Hoff replies that there are no names nor ranks, they just clean. Strickland understands who he means. Strickland then goes to Zelda's home and threatens Zelda and her husband. He continues the story of Delilah and threateningly states that in the Bible, Samson was rewarded from God for his goodness and was given strength to destroy his captors, implying that he is Samson, and if she doesn't tell him where the creature is, he'll destroy her like Salmon did to the Philistines. He then finally rips off his own dead fingers that never fully healed properly, symbolizing his ultimate coming undone. Immediately, Zelda's husband tells Strickland that Alyssa, who he calls the mute girl, has the creature, saying he overheard his wife talking about it on the phone. Strickland thanks him and leaves. After he leaves, Zelda shames her husband, stating that he never talks and now suddenly he can't shut up. Then he calls and warns Alyssa and Giles so they're able to leave just before Strickland arrives. However, in the apartment, Strickland finds a note with the date and canal written on it, informing him that they've taken the creature to the canal. At the canal, Giles says goodbye to the creature, placing his hand on his head just as he once did. Alyssa is hesitant to leave the creature. She tries to just walk away, but the creature doesn't understand. The creature signs that they have to be together and Alyssa tries to explain that he has to go without her. Just then, Strickland appears and knocks Giles unconscious, then shoots both Alyssa and the creature. For a moment that's that, they are seemingly dead, but then Giles gets back up and knocks Strickland over the head with a wood plank. He runs to Alyssa just as the creature comes back to life, having healed himself. As Strickland attempts to reload his gun, the creature stands up to Strickland, finally in the position of power, and Strickland states that you are a god, just before the creature slashes Strickland's neck, killing him. The real monster is finally dead. Then, the creature takes Alyssa from Giles and jumps into the canal, where he revives her and gives her the ability to breathe underwater, turning the scars on her neck into gills. They embrace underwater, implying that their story has ended happily. They've gotten their fairytale ending. The story concludes with Giles pondering what might have happened to Alyssa and the creature. He determines that they found an enduring love, remembering Alyssa fondly. He then repeats a poem that always reminded him of Alyssa, which ends on the line, "For you are everywhere," as we see Alyssa and the creature embrace, floating underwater.